convicted killer from Seymour walked out of prison a free man.
Tonight, Dr. Henry Lee is fighting back amid challenges to his decades of work as a forensic scientist.
At one time, he told the truth. No one came to his aid to help him. And that's what I'm feeling like right now.
If the person really innocent, definite, we should set them free. If just try to smear my reputation, get to advance, that shouldn't do.
David Weinberg walks. Everybody gets what they want, except us.
It's not just Ricky Birch and Sean Henning's wrongful convictions that made headlines. 2 other Connecticut cases Dr. Lee has been involved with are under scrutiny too.
David Weinberg was supposed to serve 60 years in prison for the murder of Joyce Stockmall in 1984. Weinberg walked out of this Waterbury courthouse a free man after serving 26 years in prison.
In 1984, the Seymour teen is found dead at Lake Zor, brutally beaten and stabbed 17 times. 4 years later, a jury convicts David Weinberg for her murder. Police seized a knife from his apartment, which was presented as evidence in his trial. Dr. Lee testifies that a substance on the knife is blood.
We can only say test positive for blood. We cannot say human or not human or anything else.
But fast forward to 2010. The Connecticut Innocence Project takes up Weinberg's case. Evidence is retested with new technology, confirming the substance is not human blood. And the lawyers say Lee should have known that during the trial.
Well, eventually, we found and carefully read the lab notes of the person who actually did do the testing.
Speaking about the case on WDRC, The Talk of Connecticut in 2017, Darcy McGraw, then director of the Connecticut Innocence Project, says her team tracked down the lab technician who performed the original tests.
And we showed him the notes in his own handwriting, and he was able to show us that he definitively established that this was not human blood.
And Dr. Lee went against the advice of someone who worked under him?
Dr. Lee did not do the testing.
Lee says that lab tech made the wrong interpretation. Weinberg's attorneys petitioned for a new trial on the basis that all of the evidence used to convict him was circumstantial, and the forensic methods would not hold up in court today.
I am firmly convinced that without the knife and the hairs, this jury never would have convicted this man.
They also claim investigators overlooked a potential suspect, a woman who confessed to police just days after Stockmall's murder that she killed a woman. And they say she knew specific details about Stockmall's death that the public wouldn't have known at the time, like how the killer threw Stockmall's purse with a rock in it into a river. Police did not take this woman seriously and never shared this confession with the state or defense. State prosecutors are not convinced Weinberg could be found guilty in a new trial. So Weinberg gets early release. As part of the agreement, his murder conviction still stands. He maintains his innocence. Around the same time, another convicted killer comes forward with potential cracks in his case.
New questions are being raised about his work involving the 1985 murder of a Darien man named George Tyler. Lee testified during the trial they found the victim's blood on a pair of sneakers.
Wendel Hassan is 23 years old when he's found guilty of felony murder for that home invasion. He initially becomes a suspect after a plumber finds 2 of the victim's credit cards in Hassan's family apartment after unclogging their toilet. Hassan lived there on and off with a number of family members. After more than 3 decades in prison, Hassan petitions for a new trial after the discovery of new evidence.
So I submitted some news articles and trial testimony concerning DNA with the hope and prayer that you might see that there's a connection of misbehaviors.
Mr. Hassan is claiming actual innocence, which was based on DNA testing that had been conducted by stipulation between the Connecticut Innocence Project and the Chief State's Attorney's Office.
A factor of Hassan's conviction hinges on a bloody footprint of a Puma sneaker found in the victim's home. And investigators say the matching sneaker with blood on it is discovered in Hassan's apartment. Hassan's stepbrother had been sleeping in the room where the sneakers were found, but told police they were Wendel's. Dr. Lee testifies that the stain on the sneaker could have been victim George Tyler's blood. In 2014, investigators retest the sneaker and find negative results with screening tests for the presence of blood, and that the victim's DNA is not found on the sneaker. In his 2022 commutation hearing, the now 60-year-old Hassan questions this discovery and those surrounding the Birch, Henning, and Weinberg cases.
I thought forensic experts would be humble for the love of the science and gravitate towards the science, but I didn't see that in those three situations with Mr. Lee.
When Hassan's lawsuit is filed, Dr. Lee holds a press conference defending his name.
So 30 years later, you said not there. It's not fair to me. How did the lab technician conduct the test?
Lee raises questions about who had access to the evidence and how it was stored.
30 years ago, when we tested, we have the record. We proved it. Okay?
Hassan's asked for another trial is denied. He's not exonerated either. But his 80-year sentence does get commuted after serving 37 years behind bars. An emotional Hassan reacting to the Board of Pardon and Parole's decision.
Mr. Hassan, this has now reduced your sentence in total by 24 years and 6 months.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
The re-examining of these three cases changes the men's lives forever. But Lee staunchly defends his work and pushes back against critics who say he may be too confident in his abilities.
So I've asked you about the Hassan case, I've asked you about Birch Henning, I've asked you about Weinberg. Let's just say you did make a mistake in all these.
We cannot assume, okay? I know I did not make a mistake.
Okay, but